So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream.
I really like Martin Luther King's Drum Major Instinct sermon. He just had a way with words and he knew how to speak truth, and I really hope that you take the time to listen to it because I think he gets at a lot of the realities we still live in today.
I feel like a major characteristic that he had was working with other people and being able to take into account their differences and still work together to reach an end result and reach a goal. And I think a lot of people are not able to do that today, and they don't practice that. They kind of just go on their own separate paths and try and accomplish something. But I think it's really important that we work together and we practice that characteristic. And
I think there's a big misconception that Dr. King was just very passive. I think if you look at his earlier writings and his earlier work, you'll see that he was rather very militant, sort of very similar to Malcolm X. But I think the difference between him and I think many activists today is that he realized at an early point in his career that the militant way was not going to work. He figured out that if you're going to get proposals passed through Congress, if you're going to get bills passed through Congress, you have to do it through a very non-violent, non-threatening way. I think that's where we see the beginning of his teachings of non-violentness, non-violent protests. I think, and it sort of reminds me of the way Nelson Mandela went about ending apartheid in South Africa. I think I think him later on, he realized that if he was going to go toe to toe with the oppressors in terms of using violence, it was not going to work. And he realized that we have to do it through a non-violent way. But I think there's a misconception that Dr. King was very passive, that Dr. King was in a white man's pocket. I think Dr. King was very militant, but he realized very early on that it was only through nonviolent and through bringing whites and non-blacks into the movement, and that would get bills and that would get bills passed to Congress. So.
I admire that he used peace to achieve his goals.
I think racial relations would be very different, and the dynamics between African Americans, white Americans, Asian Americans, Latin Americans, and Native Americans would be very different, because one thing that Dr. King was very, very big on was inclusion and nonviolence. And I think his stance on nonviolence was the reason that so many rights were able to be passed with African Americans, because he included the white population and he didn't make them feel marginalized and didn't make them feel as though all black people hate them because we're oppressed in America right now. So, or at the time. So I think that had he taken a different approach, one, we probably would not have had their support, and we would not have been able to get legislation passed. And I think that also translates into today with how, while there's still problems and there still are racial issues going on in America, I think we're more integrated than we were during Martin Luther King's time, and I think we're more accepting of one another and more understanding. While I think we could take steps further to become more understanding and accepting of one another, I do think that the dynamics between all of us would have been different.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
was born Michael King, not Martin Luther King originally.
I think MLK Day should be celebrated not just in remembrance of Dr. King, but of all the individuals who sacrificed so that we can have the rights that we enjoy today.